your hands up.
Yes, good evening. Can you all hear me? Yeah, lovely. Happy New Year to all the office staff and also councillors. And I hope it will be a happy year. I feel quite positive about the year, and I wish perhaps other people would put a positive slant on things in the media instead of all the negatives, because the negatives don't seem to be doing people very much good. I do, unfortunately, though, have to raise some concerns tonight, and I'll do it as succinctly as I can. The first is seeing Heavens Field back on the exempt items. Now, this council, once elected, made a very good decision to put Heavens Field back onto the agenda for the public and not in exempt items. And I'm not aware of any discussion in these meetings as to why that has changed. And Ben, you know the reasons why the public were not happy being excluded from this conversation on Heavens Field. And having received an email from the clerk, I don't see what has changed between now and when you were elected. And I would like Heavens Field to be open to the public, because you've got to remember those decisions are using public money, and it's regarding town resources and town land. And as our town is very important to everybody, I feel it's wrong that we're excluded from those discussions. And I don't see that anything has changed from when you took it off exempt items when you were first elected. So that's the first thing. Secondly, my uncle Alan Stone Street, some of you may well know him, he used to say that consultations and the cost attached to that word was a problem in Portishead. Consultation seems to be a very easy word to say and not an easy word to undertake by those who are elected by the people of Portishead. Now, that word, consultation, seems to have been replaced or added to by the word study. And so on the item regarding the neighbourhood plan, the word study is now going to come at a cost of £4,000 to the town. And it's all in the name of neighbourhood plan. But to me, personally, I think that's too little too late. But hey, let's throw money at that anyway. So it seems to me that not only did neighbourhood plan really mean nothing to our town, and I'm not sure how it's going to work for the future, particularly because the discussions that are going on with regard to Old Mill Road and the Wyndham Way corridor put the fear of God into me. Because from what I'm hearing, there are discussions regarding that land, including the railway land, discussions that are putting residential properties first before infrastructure. So it just concerns me that you're putting £4,000 to a study, and that's before a formal consultation. I don't know whether anybody, once I've finished talking, has any comment towards that, but certainly as a resident, I really worried at the amount of money that's being thrown about here. It may well be a study is a good PR exercise, but at the moment I'm not keen on that word PR, particularly when I heard it was mentioned in a steering group for the Wyndham Way development. And it was mentioned by a councillor, and it referred to private companies and PR. And I'll come into that another time at the full council meeting. But let's just say at the moment, I'm pretty shocked by what I'm hearing is going on at those meetings. So I'd like to thank, thirdly, I'd like to thank Martin for responding to some of the questions I raised, some at council meetings. I know that was quite late, it came today, in relation to last month's meeting, and some related to separate questions that I raised in advance of this meeting. With regard to the agenda items tonight, and specifically the Clevedon and District Food Bank, I do appreciate what Martin has said, and he agreed with my comment that it is actually all part of the Trussell Trust, and I think that needs to be recorded in the documents, because otherwise people don't understand the national charity that is involved in that food bank, and we all, I think, couldn't argue that a food bank is necessary. However, I think the word Portishead needs to be included in the paperwork. And now, I do understand the legalities that Clevedon District Food Bank are part of the Trussell Trust. Portishead's not mentioned, but that doesn't stop Clevedon District Food Bank mentioning Portishead specifically, because what's important, we mustn't lose that name of our town in the discussions that you have and the agreements you make, particularly when money is involved. And it may well be that in future the storage issues may become larger. And I think it's important that people, when they're reading paperwork, don't see Clevedon District Food Bank. They say perhaps see Clevedon and District Food Bank incorporating Portishead, because, you know, that is a large national charity, and I think that Portishead needs to be specifically mentioned. Thank you for the update on Merlin Park, Ben. I would like tonight, please, an update on the lake grounds, and that at the moment is more pertinent to me purely because of some FOI that I've received regarding the landlord's consent, which is not quite what I thought it was. It's not quite the authorisation that I thought we were given because of the conditions that were imposed at the time. So I'd like an update, please, on that. And I do appreciate we've been in a difficult year, but some people make comments to me that where's the funding? Why hasn't crowdfunding taken place? What is going on? And I think it's important that people just get a regular update. And in the past, the town council used to have an update sheet. And I think for items which are outstanding, for someone who perhaps doesn't attend meetings all the time, it would be really useful to have that update sheet with those items that have not been yet resolved. It would be really helpful to members of the public, particularly in these times where they're not attending meetings and they're getting things by email. Then I just would like to mention the email that Martin sent me today in answer to some of the questions that I raised. So the first one is the lake grounds. I've asked, you know, when is going to be the formal consultation on the lake grounds? And I've asked that specifically because one of the ward councillors has made a big point of saying to people locally and on social media, there's going to be this big formal consultation. So I asked when it was going to be, and the answer was that North Somerset Council is working with Portishead Town Council to put forward a plan. Yes, I know all of that. What I want to know is when the consultation is going to be, because again, there's information out there that suggests that North Somerset Council certainly wants to knock down the boatyard, wants to knock down possibly the cafe, and all these discussions are going on behind the scenes, but we're not, as residents, privy to them. And so it's really important that even at the grassroots level, excuse the pun, it's really important that residents are involved. And if discussions are taking place behind the scenes to knock down the boathouse, then consult with people. So I don't think it's good enough for people to say, oh, people are working on it and we don't have a date. Well, I'm sorry, I don't think that's very good for the people who are expecting those consultations. Returning to the Wyndham Way steering group, I asked whether we could have an update after each meeting, and I was sent a link, which was no use whatsoever, because the link is just another PR exercise. It doesn't feed back what is happening at those meetings. It certainly doesn't feed back that people attending those meetings were asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And it doesn't tell us that residential is already being discussed in advance of infrastructure. It doesn't tell us that Portishead Railway land may be built on. And in fact, when it talks about things that are being discussed in a nicey-nicey sort of way, it doesn't even mention the railway. Now, if all these thousands of people have actually commented on the interactive map, which is particularly not very good because you can't actually put all your comments on there, I would have thought at least one person would have mentioned the railway. But yet it's not mentioned in this update. And I don't want to see nicey quotes from Councillor Tonkin telling us nothing at all. I think we need to have updates from those meetings, and I think it's really important. So just going back to that other email, there was one other thing I wanted to mention. Yes, it was returning back to, I was asked for reassurance that the Portishead Town Councillors on that steering group would be representing Portishead and the Town Council and not their personal interests. But knowing that there was recommendations for PR companies within that meeting and within those groups, and I'm sorry, it doesn't seem that we're getting the information we should be. And with all great respect to Martin Salisbury, who is now entitled Project Officer, he's not the project officer for that steering group as far as I'm aware. And when I write to the councillors, sometimes I would like a response from the councillors. And I just wonder how we go about getting that. Do we have to write to each of you individually? Do we have to write to you all en bloc? At the moment, we were told to direct questions to the clerk, but I feel like I'm getting back a PR exercise instead of the answers, you know, to my questions. And I don't think it's good enough, I'm sorry. So I'm sorry to be negative in the sense that I'm raising concerns, because I do know that people are doing a huge amount of good. And I know that people, the office staff, are working really hard within Portishead Town Council. But I'm not seeing the promises fulfilled that we were given when councillors were elected regarding consultation, communication and liaison. And that doesn't go for all of you, but it's certainly at the moment I feel as a resident very worried, particularly over the Wyndham Way development and that corridor as well as Old Mill Road. And I think it's important we get updates, please. Thank you.